So kia ora, everyone who's watching this, either in full or in parts. I am really lucky to have the lovely Kat Jenkins here, who is a friend and a colleague and just an amazing crowdfunding expert here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And we're going to talk about a campaign that she's been working on recently, which is for Nisa. So I don't think you will have been able to miss Nisa's campaign. They raised $100,000 in 24 hours recently to enable the team to take the company over when it was shut down. And so I'm going to share a little bit about Nisa from what I know, and then we're going to talk about this campaign together. So Nisa actually first crowdfunded back in 2017. So Alicia, the founder, had been working in the business for less than a year and decided to go out to her crowd to raise some funding to take it to the next level. She raised her goal of $10,000 over a weekend and ended up doubling the amount of money that she raised. And since then, she actually did another campaign to launch men's underwear. But most recently, her team decided to run a campaign because Alicia decided to shut down the business when she decided to focus on different things in her life. And the team came through with this amazing crowdfunding campaign with the support of Kat. And that is what we're going to talk about today. So, Kat, what made you decide to work with Nisa on this campaign?
Well, it'd been a few years since I'd run a crowdfunding campaign, so I was essentially retired. But when you got in touch with me and said that Nisa, who I was aware of, I knew they had a following and I knew they'd crowdfunded before, were looking at crowdfunding again, I thought, well, this is good. And then you mentioned that Pam was working on this project, and it turns out that Pam is my ex-flatmate's ex-fiance's best friend. So there was kind of that connection there. We hadn't seen each other in 20 years, but I did have very fond memories of Pam. And so I was quite excited to catch up and work with her and help them fund.
I love it. Yeah, because it was funny. Hey, I caught up with Alicia and she was like, hey, the team's thinking about doing this. I think they need someone to support. And after thinking about it, was like, oh, Kat. And so I got in touch with you and you were like, oh, I don't know, maybe I could help. And that's where the connections were made. So what happened though when you first sort of caught up with Pam and the team? How did you help them prepare for this campaign?
Well, when I was doing this full time, I used to run workshops where we would figure out messaging, rewards, the funding goal, and really pull a campaign together over about 4 hours. So the Nisa team and we ran that workshop kind of informally over two weeks. So we ran the first half, which was messaging, video, and rewards on the first week. Then they went off, started recording a video. We came back the second week to really start nailing everything and bringing it all together and to start working on the promotion part of the campaign. Then at the end of that particular workshop, we decided that maybe they needed a little bit more work. So we gave them another week and then they launched. So it was a really, really quick preparation that we went through. But at the same time, what Nisa had that not every crowdfunder has, but which is like their superpower, is this amazing crowd of customers who not only inspired Pam and the team to try and restart Nisa in the first place with their incredible response to the close down period, but who also just came in and blew us away in this campaign when we did launch.
And the reason the crowd loves them so much, the customers love them so much, is their goal, right? Which is to provide employment opportunities for former refugee and migrant women. And so there was such a sense of loss when they said they were shutting down, right? And such a...
Yeah. That plus they make really good clothing. One thing that I've spotted come up in a lot of the pledging comments is, yay, I still get to have my Nisa underwear. So people genuinely love the product as well as the mission.
And I think that's important with social enterprises, right? You can't just win on your impact. You also have to create a product that people love and people want to buy. Yeah, it has to be the same quality.
Yeah, and Nisa really have that going for them. I don't think you can create that kind of a relationship with your customers unless you're providing both the social good and the excellent product in the first place.
Totally. So why do you think, so you did this campaign prep with the team, and then you launched. And can you just talk us through what happened when you launched?
Yeah, so we launched very quietly in the morning, and we invited friends and family to really come in, and they started padding the bottom of the campaign and started putting some totals in there, which was nice. And then we divided up the Nisa mailing list. So the very first people who got the link, they got the link at 11 a.m. And they were people who buy Nisa underwear and had bought it recently, but also were quick to open and respond to emails. So we brought in a whole lot of those people. And by the time we publicly launched at 12 o'clock, I can't remember exactly what they were sitting on, but they definitely had a good total there. So as more people were brought in over time, you kind of got there and you had the sense that this was something that was really happening and the crowd was really coming together, and it almost gives people a sense of FOMO. They don't want to miss out on this amazing event, so it encourages more people to get on board. And yeah, it was just absolutely mind-blowing seeing all that money coming in. How did it feel for you at PledgeMe?
It was so great. It felt like the old days in a way of, like, campaigns launching with great crowds and just really going quick and going at it. And because there was the value exchange as well, right? People really wanted Nisa to succeed, and they really wanted that underwear. And I think that's something I forgot to say, is that one of the reasons the team decided they wanted to take over the business, right, is because there was such a big level of support when the shutdown was announced. So there was $500,000 in sales in the final 5 weeks once Alicia announced that the company was closing. So they knew there was a crowd there, right?
Yeah, we did know there was a crowd there, and I believe that kind of support is really what motivated the team to think about taking this on. I mean, taking on a business, especially when you're starting with basically no funds, it's a really overwhelming prospect. But if you know that those customers are there and you know that they really like your product, it gives you a little bit more confidence to go out there and see if they'll support you.
And so why do you think it worked so well? What was the secret sauce in this campaign?
Oh, I mean, I don't think any campaign is any one thing. So you can come up with a whole lot of things, but it's really everything blended together makes a delicious soup. And the individual ingredients in the soup might change depending on who made it, but it can still be a soup. And that's kind of what they've done. So they have a really great mix of rewards. And I think that is part of it. So they started very, very low, and they wanted to embrace even people who are struggling at the moment. If you want to put $5 into that campaign, you are valued as much as someone who puts in $100. Everyone gets some kind of reward in return. And we really worked on creating value in those rewards, and they do range from $5 to $10,000. And that $10,000 reward, obviously that's a decent chunk of their funding goal, and they did sell it. And so one of the big takeaways is start low and end high, like higher than you think is possible, because someone who has those funds might really jive with what you're doing, and they might feel like their $5 might be $10,000, and they might feel like they can give that to you without minding that much. And it does happen on many campaigns. Certainly worth reaching for the stars.
And I think it's not giving there, right? It's, as you said, a value exchange, which, I had friends telling me, like, they were pledging for the underwear, they were pledging for this. And one person was really stoked they could pledge for the workshop so they could take their team to it as their Christmas party, right? So there was different levels that people could engage with in different ways. And I think the thing to point out, though, in the soup is, there was amazing rewards, a real value exchange, but it was also, Nisa had been around for a while. They built up an amazing crowd, which we've already talked about. But this gave that crowd the opportunity and the value exchange to help them take over.
Yeah, absolutely it did. And it was actually another thing about those rewards is we did think about Christmas. So they're running their campaign August to September, which gives them time to create create rewards that can be used as Christmas gifts. So most of the reward levels can be Christmas gifts, which is where we kind of came up with the team's workshop, because we thought, well, maybe people want to do Christmas do's with their workplace, and some of those have sold as well. So yeah, people do want to do these workshops with their workplace.
And so, were there any other things you thought about when you were setting those rewards? Like, were there any considerations, not just like how much, but like what things did you discuss when you were figuring that out?
Possibly one of the biggest things is we wanted to ensure that Nisa would have an ongoing sales relationship with their customers outside of this campaign. So obviously that you don't want to get all your money in one big lump and then have nothing until the Christmas rush. That's not ideal for actually keeping your cash flow running. So rewards like the 50% off vouchers, hopefully that'll mean that people are still coming back, still putting money into the business, and the business is still moving forward all the way through. And we also thought about experiential rewards and rewards that offered massive value. One thing that really surprised us was the bespoke briefs. So those came about. Pam said, I can make something for anyone. And I have a slightly odd shaped body. And I thought, can you make briefs for anybody? And she said, yep. And I said, a person who'd had an amputated leg, or someone who was very large, or just potato shaped like me. And she said, yeah, anybody. And so I said, well, could we do a reward level where someone comes along and gets a couple of weeks supply of underwear designed specifically for their body? And she said, yep. And so we created what's called the bespoke briefs level. And there was 10 there was originally 5 and eventually 10 in that level. And we sold out of those within 3 days. I think we could probably sell another 50 of them. But it is going to take time and energy for the team to make those briefs. So we don't want to overload them in any way. So that was just incredible. Like making personalized gifts or personalized rewards was super popular.
How much did that cost, the bespoke briefs? How much was the reward level?
750. So you'd get 14 pairs of underwear. So you were paying a little bit more than the RRP, but you would get a measuring session with Pam. And then probably the most value in that reward is if you want to buy future pairs of your bespoke underwear, they will hold on to the pattern and they will make those bespoke pairs in the future.
Amazing. Oh, that's so cool. Because right, it's completely connected to what they're doing in business day to day anyways. It does cost a bit of time, but it's not like a huge cost to the business. Oh, that's great. So what kind of collateral did you create for the campaign?
I think one of the most important things in a campaign is to explain as much as you can, but written words don't ring with everybody. So where you can explain something in images, it's worth doing it. We did that in 2 places specifically on this campaign. So the first one is we took their funding goal and we broke it down into a pie graph. So that's a pretty simple way to quickly show people what you want to do with the money. And I think it really encourages trust. Personally, when I'm pledging to a campaign, that's actually my major question. If I think your goal is cool and I maybe find a reward, that's the bit I want to know. What are you going to do with the money? So I always create a pie graph, just breaking that down because it's so simple. People get it in a heartbeat. And the second piece is we realized we had a lot of rewards and they could maybe be a bit confusing if you were trying to get your head around them. So we created a little rewards matrix, which on one level showed each of the reward levels, and on the other side showed each of the individual rewards. And then it was just kind of a tick or you get 2 of these or 1 of these. So you could look at it and work out what you were going to get in your reward level, because it's not always obvious. So that was a real piece, just looking at how you can communicate using imagery.
Totally. I think images are so important, as are videos. And videos are often hard for us to get people to make. Are they actually needed? And how did you make yours?
Yeah, so I believe they are needed. I mean, you and I both know that there is a massive increase to the chances of success if you have a video. There are people who have proven me wrong on that and have gone on to raise thousands of dollars with no video at all. But generally, it's worth the time to make it. In this case, Pam put up a message on her Facebook page and asked her friends to see if anyone would help. And some generously donated their time and helped them make a video. And it works.
And that, I think, is a really important point. When you're getting ready to crowdfund, you can crowdsource support. It doesn't just need to be you preparing the campaign. There are probably people in your crowd that would love to help in different ways. They just need to know what you need, right? Yeah. And in this case, it was help making a video.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a skill that no one on the team really had. I mean, I probably could have put a video together for them, but I'm on the other end of the country and I couldn't get in there and I don't have a camera. So the fact that Pam could just, rope one of her friends to come in and do it was really helpful. And I think a lot of people have someone in their circle with enough knowledge to put something together. It does not have to be perfect. In fact, ideally, it's not perfect, because if you look like you've got a picture perfect professional video, unless you are a movie maker, a filmmaker, then it kind of looks like, why are we giving you money? You've got this perfect video. You must have paid someone a lot of money to make it. So, being a little less professional, I think really, really actually helps in many campaigns. So probably one of my biggest pieces for advice on the video is don't stress about perfection, stress about your message and getting it out quickly.
And what is that about the message? What do you need to get out quickly?
You really need to capture people's attention from the moment the video starts. So the first version of this video started going up the stairs and into the studio and looking around the studio, which was nice and a good introduction, except that it didn't hook people. So when we were doing our research on the campaign, we went back to the original Nisa campaign and watched the original video that Alicia had made in 2017. And in that video, she says, one day, I hope that it's the team taking over this business. And when I highlighted it to the team, I said, maybe we start your video with that. So that's kind of how the video evolved. So now you get this footage of Alicia saying what she wanted Nisa to be in 2017 and that she wanted her staff to take it over one day, followed by a quick trip up the stairs into the studio and then straight into this is what we want to do and here's the team.
I love it. I love it. So one thing from the outside, and you've explained a little bit how you dripped out the comms, but what were the things that you did in the lead up to the campaign to really help activate the crowd of supporters that you knew were there?
Yeah, so I think, again, this comes back to Alicia. She sent out a letter through the email database about a week before we launched, where she explained how she felt about this moment in time where she was handing over the business and what was happening. And that really warmed up the crowd. It kind of ended with a watch this space. And so when all those supporters got the email the next week saying we've launched our crowdfunding campaign, they knew it was coming, and they were already kind of primed to get on board with it. They just had to turn up, watch the video, and find a reward they liked.
And so there was the announcement of the company closing down, and then the final sort of the sales over 5 weeks, and then there was an announcement that actually something might be coming, and that was from Alicia, right? And then the following, and
then the team. They took actual ownership of the business in, I think, the 1st of August, I think it was. So they had actually signed a lot of documents and committed before they went live on PledgeMe, which that is a big step for anyone. So well done on them for taking that risk, because it's really, I think, paid off for them. But they were really moving, and they were moving quickly to try and keep this thing going. But the business was wound down. Stock was sold. They wound down and sent out a lot of stock, and they weren't sitting on a whole lot of inventory. So we really had to then work with what they had to make this campaign work.
Totally. And so there was the early warning to the crowd that this was coming.
Mm.
There was some media as well. So Radio New Zealand did a piece once they said something was coming, right?
Yeah. So Pam reached out to a couple of journalists and managed to get a piece on Radio New Zealand and stuff. That turned out to be really helpful because of the stuff comments of all things, because the stuff comments kind of said, well, you know, what's going to be different this time? Why are you going to succeed now when you had to close down before? And the team, they responded to that. They went and sat back and worked on their messaging and kind of explained what's going to be different this time, which is the fact that they're going to work as contract manufacturers as well as producing the Nisa clothing.
I love it. So they'd already had that plan, but because of the comments and stuff, which turns out sometimes you should read, they made sure the messaging hit that. So when it went live, people knew what was different this time. And then I think the other thing that you've done really well is not just activating the crowd in the lead up, but keeping the crowd active once the campaign was launched. Do you want to talk about that, what you've done to make sure the crowd is updated as you've been going?
Yeah, so personally, I started doing this as a job because I was a pledger who really didn't like it when I never heard from the people again. Those updates are really important, and they're the kind of thing that actually builds that crowd in the long term. So when we had a comms plan which kind of talked about all the things we would do, and one thing that I threw in there was about a dozen backer updates or pledger updates, because without them, if you pledge to a campaign and then never hear anything from the campaigner again until it closes and they take your money, that's really alienating, and honestly makes me feel quite uncomfortable. But if you are consistently telling people how amazing they are, and that's not BSing anyone, like truly we felt a lot of gratitude for every pledge, and so putting that out into a backer update or a pledger update allowed those people to understand that, yes, they're helping. Yes, we're incredibly grateful. And this is what we're now doing. So on day 2, once they had funded, Pam had been stress baking the night before to get away from that constant refresh of the page. And so she'd arrived at the workshop with a big box of lemon and poppy seed muffins, I believe. So we sent out a pledger update that second morning saying, come see us at the workshop. come we really appreciate you, and if you're in Wellington, we'd love to see you. And people did turn up and shared a muffin with Pam, and looked around and saw the thing that they were saving and were actually involved. And it's just a part of crowdfunding that just makes it all worth it, because it's not about a pot of money, it's really about the crowd.
And the crowd coming in with all of their, $50, $20, $5, $100 pledges.
Yeah.
And that's what makes a difference, not a large pot of money or investment or like a big decision. It's lots of small decisions or smaller decisions. They're not small decisions, but
no, I mean, to be honest, it's possible that for a backer for a pledger at $5, that is a bigger commitment to that individual than someone who maybe has a little bit more funds in the bank and has pledged at 100 or 250. I really find a lot of value in those low-level rewards because they really embrace the crowd.
Totally. And one of the things that I really loved in the campaign, and it's possibly because I helped with the idea, was the idea of the underwear specifically for the campaign, right? Like if you get these underwears and this underwear and you wear it, you were one of the people that helped this company continue. Yeah. Do you want to talk about that update and what you did with that?
Yeah, so as you say, you brought this to us a couple of days before we launched, and I ran it past the team, and the team went, "Yeah, that's a great idea." And it's weird that we missed it, but it's because I don't like merch rewards is why we missed it. But this isn't a merch reward; it's part of what they're actually pledging to do. So when we first launched, we didn't have a design for these underwear. And I kind of thought to myself, I think that's going to be okay, because it's going to give us something to talk about later on. So I think about 10 days in, they finalised the image. Pam worked with the Kingdom of Klar to design a design which is called the Bird of Helping Hands. And through this campaign, we have 500 pairs of underwear with that print on them, and you can buy them at various levels. I think a lot of the rewards above $50 contain them, except for the 100 and 220, because those are unlimited. So all the limited rewards over that have these underwear in them, but they are limited to 500 pairs. They're not gonna make any more. So if you want a pair of these underwear, you have to get in on this campaign, and you have to pledge to one of those levels. And I think that has really helped things along. It's one of our better selling rewards.
Yes, it's almost like I've done this for a decade.
You would think.
So I got two more questions. How did you feel hitting the goal in less than 24 hours?
I know the team were absolutely blown away. So we talked about this during the workshop, what might happen, and I think the best we were thinking is maybe we'll fund in 3 days. To fund in less than 24 hours, I mean, it doesn't happen very often, and it's incredibly special, and it's so special to be a part of. I personally have just found it absolutely wonderful, and it's completely rejuvenated my love of crowdfunding.
Yay! That's awesome. And so I want to end with a question that's more specifically in your realm of expertise, Kat. What top tips do you have for someone who might be thinking about this, either thinking about it because they have a new exciting thing they want to do, or maybe also thinking about it because they're in a space where they need to get some cash in and they're not sure what to do? What top tips do you have for those people?
My first tip is to be clear about your goals. Understand what you actually need and how much it's going to cost. Go out and refine that budget, and use a pie graph to show people what it's for. But the lower your goal, the more likely you are to actually fund. So it is important to be really clear on what you're trying to do and how much it's going to cost. My next point is to get to the point quickly. Don't spend time telling us about your history. That's background information and it is relevant, but like the thing people want to know when they land on that page is, what are you trying to do? How much money do you need? And how can I help? And it, what can I get out of it also does play in there for a lot of people. Although there are also generous people who will just give you money and say good luck. And the third tip is to be generous. So all backers to this, all pledges to this campaign, they all get a reward of some kind. And we've just passed 1,000 pledges, and we're currently working on a surprise little reward again for everyone. It doesn't always mean adding more rewards that cost more money. It just means think of your crowd and consider what you might want if you were pledging to a campaign, and just make it as fun and as exciting and as jam-packed full of value as you possibly can make it.
And to your point, value doesn't need to cost you money. Value is something that's going to excite people and make them happy, but it doesn't need to be they're getting more merch or anything like that.
No, I don't want to give away exactly what we're planning at the moment, but it's a PDF download. It's a cool PDF download, but ultimately that only costs a bit of time to make.
I love it. Okay, we are going to stop because we've gone over time. Sorry, Charlotte. But I just want to say a quick thank you. If this recording is watched in full, I just want to make sure I go on the record as saying Kat is an amazing, amazing, amazing crowdfunding expert, and it's been so wonderful to have her working with Nisa on this campaign. I mean, you obviously had some great stuff to work with, Kat, but I think you and your support has taken it to the next level. So we're so lucky you came out of retirement for us.
Thank you for dragging me out of retirement. This has been so much fun and an absolute pleasure to be a part of.